Griff, I did want to discuss the All-Star Game. Here's the weird thing about baseball, right? That every year we sit here, right here, and we discuss the worst of the All-Star Game and like who should have made it, who shouldn't have made it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it feels like this is a recurring problem for baseball in that the All-Star Game is not representing its best players. Let me ask you a question, okay, Griff? What do you think is if you had to pick an All-Star Game that is best in its representation of players and their performance and also entertaining, which would you pick?
Like of the major sports?
Of the major sports, yeah.
Normally I would have said basketball.
Okay.
But that's kind of, I mean, it still kind of is because it's just a trick shot event. Like, so you have the dunk contest, which isn't nearly as good as it used to be. And then the actual game, which is just no one plays defense. It's kind of like the actual, excuse me, it's like the NFL Pro Bowl. No one tries. But at least in basketball, because basketball is not really a contact sport, it's whatever. Hockey, good skills competition. That one's not as bad. I think baseball should be the most intriguing because everyone loves the home run derby, and it's in the middle of the season.
Well,
so
and it's not a
intrigue is
contact
still
sport,
high.
so like people,
Right?
like
Well, so
they
like pitchers might
besides
not
the
try as
pitchers,
hard.
they can really try,
And they're not gonna. Guys aren't gonna like dive out to make plays and like they're not gonna like try to injure themselves or anything
Right.
like that.
But they can try to the best of their abilities without getting injured.
Yeah. No, I'd probably say baseball.
So I guess my problem with baseball, and I'm not gonna get into how like the All-Star Game could change itself because there are so many things that could make it more exciting. One of which I wish that they would add more events. Like I think that I love the way that the NHL does it, where they have a ton of like small events, skills competitions, things like that. Like all baseball has is the home run derby, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it would be nice to see like
what are you gonna what other skills competition could you add to the MLB?
Again, this is creative, okay, but in Japan they have a bunting competition, and I'm not saying that this has got to be like streamed live on ESPN. By no means does it need to be like primetime television, but at least it's like something going on, especially for the fans that are down there. Get people involved in the game. I don't know. Could you get the kids involved somehow? Have like, I know that they have that celebrity softball game that they do,
Yeah,
whatever. So like, but
like,
outside of that though, there's nothing going on.
Yeah. But I think because the event itself used to be enough because it was kind of people kind of marveled at it. I remember when I was a kid, I really cared about the All-Star Game. And I felt like a lot of people did. Like I felt like it was just it had more impact on the cultural zeitgeist. But I don't think it does anymore. I think part of that is like, I think people have just moved on from the All-Star Games, and that's in every sport. Like, I don't think many people care about it anymore. And the only reason the MLB one is interesting is because it's in the middle of the season, which is kind of funny because really it's like, I find it very funny when people be like, oh, he's a X-time All-Star. And I'm like, that doesn't mean he had X many good seasons. It means he had this many first half of seasons that were good. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
and like
my point with it is I just think like culturally, no, we don't care about it anymore. I think like the home run derby is like, I think more people find that interesting than the actual All-Star Game itself. And it's kind of the same thing with the other ones. People care more about the dunk contest than the actual All-Star Game in the NBA. I think more people care about skills competition than the game in hockey, and I think it's definitely the case. No one cares about the Pro Bowl.
No,
So much
I don't think
they
that
talk
anyone
about
ever has
just
cared
making
about
it.
the Pro Bowl.
I think they view the NFL, because the NFL is the only league that, for all their faults, wants to get ahead on these fucking issues. Has said they might probably just going to get rid of the game entirely and make it an event. So it's like, you're an all-star, you get the platitude, and they'll just do skills competitions. They'll expand those, do more fun things. Maybe do like that thing. It's like user fan control football kind of style. Just more user engagement stuff that isn't a real game. That's still fun to watch.
Okay, but by that same metric, like in college, and I know that this is a little bit different, but like all Americans don't get their own game, or skills competition. Nobody's throwing a fit.
No, and that's why it's like, I think if they just went away, no one's going to be too upset.
No, absolutely not. I mean, the only thing I think, the only one, well, I mean, I guess there's a couple ones, because basketball and hockey put theirs in the middle of the season too, right?
Yes, theirs is also in the middle of the season.
So,
but theirs is towards, I think it's more towards the end, because, now I'm curious what the 2021, because the hockey season started in October and it ended in April. Oh no, so it was right in the middle, January 29th through the 30th. So yeah, hockey's the same way, where it's in the middle, which is interesting, I think, because hockey, especially with it being then, is still competing with football.
Right.
Like, playoffs are going on around then. It's surprising that they don't extend.
They don't like
into
push
summer.
it somewhere else.
But I think part of the reason is because like the NHL, especially with everything's been a little delayed because of COVID, so they've started the season later and it's ended later. And I think part of that is because like the Avs won the cup and then the draft was literally like 3 weeks later. Right. So it's another thing to cram in. Typically, free agency starts very soon, so guys don't want to be dealing with the All-Star game. They want some downtime before they have to start worrying about that stuff. So I kind of get it. It's also just like a break, especially for baseball, having a couple days off.
Right, like they get like a full week almost, basically.
Like, I'm not making excuses for the Tigers, but they are playing 19 games in 17 days. That's a lot. That's a lot. And I know it's baseball, but
right. Well, I mean, baseball is harder than a lot of people think. I think because they put so much like effort into, like the injuries are just different, right? Like you need to be 100%. Like if you take a ball to the hand, for example, and this is maybe a bad example, but if you take a ball to the hand, that is going to be a lot more severe because you need that, right? Like to swing the bat, you need that to do certain things. Whereas in like hockey, or Stafford in football was playing with a broken shoulder for the long, or dislocated shoulder, a shoulder that popped out occasionally. Like he would play with that, and I mean granted it was his left shoulder, but that's just not something you can do in baseball. Just because, I mean, there's it's just a fundamentally different sport. Griff, I want to get into. Obviously, baseball is All-Star Game. Obviously, that's why we're having this discussion. It will take place on July 19th, which is 8 days from now.
8 days from now.
8 days from now. And it's in LA. It is the second time that the All-Star Game is played at Dodger Stadium, as the last time was in 1980. And it also hosted the 1959 All-Star Game in Memorial Coliseum. And it has been played in Anaheim 3 times at Angel Stadium. And so, very exciting stuff. The rosters were just announced. Coaches or managers, obviously, will be from the Braves and Astros. As
Dusty
per
Baker.
tradition.
It's also his retirement tour as well. So
very exciting. So I'm not gonna get too deep into the woods here, but so
minutia.
as far as AL starters, you got Alejandro Kirk, at catcher for the Blue Jays. Vladdy, obviously. Jose Altuve. Rafael Devers. Tim Anderson from the White Sox. Judge, Trout, Stanton. All the big names. Ohtani is in there. For the NL, you got Wilson Contreras for the Cubs. Paul Goldschmidt, Jazz Chisholm, Manny Machado, Trey Turner, Acuna, Betts, Peterson, Bryce Harper. Again, all of the those are the starters, right? All fan-voted starters.
Well, I'll say this. So I don't think Guerrero, Vladdy should have been the
really
first base. Ty France has better numbers than him throughout the year. And is better defensively at first base.
So here's to be fair,
isn't in at all is just horseshit.
To be fair, okay, and I'm not about to because I agree that Ty France should be in. I think that the MLB right now has a very flawed system of like how they vote people in, because obviously like you vote, right? Like that's the biggest issue that the MLB has. And when you have that, essentially this becomes a popularity contest. In 2015, every starter except for 2 players, I'm pretty sure you can check me, but every starter in 2015 on the All-Star roster in the AL was from the Kansas City Royals outside of 2 players. And that was Mike Trout and like one other guy. Every other player was on the Royals roster.
I think it was Altuve.
It could have been. It could have been. But my point is that this basically comes down to favoritism, right? Look at the Blue Jays, okay? Alejandro Kirk, by the way, who's having a great season, and that is well-deserved, okay? Kirk is somehow, he's like a 5'8" catcher. I have no idea how he's having this good of a season. Anyway, he is...
I was right because I was Trout and Altuve and everyone else is on the Royals. It's
right,
Gordon,
and because the Royals just had
Hosmer,
like some fan
Morales,
voting militia,
Perez, Escobar, and Moustakis.
Yeah. So we got Alejandro Kirk from the Blue Jays. Kirk was like, again, he's well-deserved season. Vladdy at first base, also on the Blue Jays. You have George Springer in the outfield, okay? And then there should be and then there's not Kevin Gausman. There's Alek Manoah from the Blue Jays as well. So he's like a second-year pitcher. He is in as well. So that's 4 members of the Blue Jays, okay? Now look at the Astros. You got Framber Valdez. You got Justin Verlander. And again, those weren't fan voted in. But
Yordan Alvarez.
And then, right, and you got, Alvarez. You have...
He's hurt.
Altuve. But again, and okay, look at the Mets, okay? Another one. The Mets have Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil. They have Starling Marte. And they have Edwin Diaz. That's another 4 players for one team. So, and the interesting thing, though, is that it seems like the MLB tries not to make that happen. So, like, in the sense of, like, if one team has too many players, but some players are picked over another, because the fan voting has a lot to do with this, right? So like if a player is fan voted in, that means that they have to start the game. Those are your starters. On that by that same token though, the managers choose the rest of the roster. And I think there's a committee involved that also is involved, and they basically choose the rest of the players, and every team needs representation. So if every team isn't represented, then other teams who maybe not deserve someone might boot someone off. And so that is kind of what you have here, right? Like, I don't know.